And good evening and welcome to another edition of the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. I am Chad Holmes, joined by former Wausau West head football coach Jason Foster. We'll be talking high school football for the next 2 hours. Plus, we'll have a couple of special guests. As coming up today, our coach guest for this week is the head football coach at Athens High School, and they are still participating with Level 2 in the 8-player football playoffs coming up this weekend. Todd Diethelm will be our guest at 6:30 p.m., and then our student-athlete guest coming up at 7:06, another young man who's part of a playoff team. It will be from Merrill High School senior Hunter Opper, so he'll be with us at 7:06. So those are our two guests for tonight, and across the way is Jason Foster. Jason, good to see you.
Good to be here. Finally feels like fall outside.
It certainly does. I was out at practice this afternoon and had the winter coat on, had the big hoodie on, and with a little light rain. So it does feel like high school football playoff time for sure. Coming up later, we'll talk about the games, but also I want to talk about what we learned after the first year of this new system, because there's some things that I see that you can say either positive or negative, but I'm going to be very curious to get your thoughts on it later on in the program as well, because I'm sure you noticed as well, maybe a few teams that would have been in the playoffs previously, not in, and maybe a few teams that would not have been in the playoffs recently in, and I would say some weak teams also getting in. So I'm curious to hear your thoughts as we go a little bit later on in the program.
Yeah, definitely interesting. And obviously we'll talk about it, but how the brackets laid out too. Apparently there's a little more in the travel budget this year for the WIAA. So
you're exactly right. So we'll talk about that coming up. Let's talk about the final week of the regular season, week number 9 last week, starting with the Wisconsin Valley Conference, and DC Everest knew they had to win in order to get solo championship in the WVC, and they took care of business against Eau Claire Memorial, winning 43-7. Everest 6-3 overall, 6-0 in the Valley. Memorial 1-8, 1-5 in the conference. We talked to the coach last week, and we got the sense that maybe we were going to see a little bit of a change with the running back, a rest period for Colton Enzenroth, and it was a sophomore, Jediah McCrary, who had 137 yards on 11 carries and a touchdown for DCE. Ty Rhodey, 8 of 19, 126 through the air with 2 touchdowns. Andrew Bankston, 2 catches for 67 yards and a touchdown for Everest. But for the second straight year, the DC Everest Evergreens are the conference champions.
Yeah, another great season for them. They definitely went about it differently this year than they did last year. A few less big names, but kind of plug and play, right? Some guys played really well. I think their defense is definitely a bigger part of the formula this year. I think they leaned a little heavier on their offense last year, but yeah, up front, offense and defensive line and defense, it has been a good recipe for success for the Evergreens this year.
Then we have Marshfield and Stevens Point, perhaps one of the games in the area last week. It was quite a matchup. Marshfield went out to a fairly big lead. Stevens Point came back, took the lead 30-29 late in the game. Marshfield drove it downfield and then kicked a field goal. Aaron Agna, a 29-yard field goal with 14 seconds left for Marshfield to give the Tigers the win. Hayden Carlson, 30 rushes, 297 yards and 3 touchdowns. Wes Nowitzki had 18 tackles for Marshfield. Tucker Phillips, 28 carries, 197 yards and a touchdown. Trent Breitbach, 23 rushes for 170 yards and 3 touchdowns for Stevens Point. Rare that you have a game again with 197 yards and 170 yards by 2 different rushers, and they lost the football game.
You know, following up on that is I spent some time today looking at the Wisconsin Valley Conference stat page, and I don't even think this game is in there yet, actually, from the individual and team stats. And Spash, far and away, is the offensive statistical leader, rushing and passing this year in the conference. So obviously, when you look on the other side of it, DC Everest defense stands tall, but at the end of the day, the Panthers had a rough go against West, against Marshfield, and most certainly against DC Everest. So an interesting year for Spash. Kind of started off really hot, played some lesser teams, but we really thought they were going to kind of be that team. And in the end, they kind of took some tough losses.
So Marshfield 5-4 overall, 5-1 in the conference. Pretty amazing. They win their last 4 games of the regular season. Stevens Point 5-4 overall, 3-3 in the conference, and ultimately not enough to get them in the playoffs. River Falls, in a game that we had right here on 98.9 WXCO last Friday night, defeated Wausau West 56-19. Boy, River Falls, very impressive football team. 8-1 overall, 5-1 in the Big Rivers. Warriors 5-4 overall, 4-2 in the Valley. Tino Massa, the quarterback for River Falls, 26 of 31, 266 yards and 6 touchdowns. Todd Benedict, 10 catches, 137 yards, 4 touchdowns as well. Cooper DePoit had his 4th consecutive 100-yard rushing night for the Warriors, 16 carries, 107 yards. Shea Jones, 4 catches, 85 yards and a touchdown. Miles Walvogel, 12 tackles for West. And actually, I put that number in because that was a rather significant number. You don't want Miles Waldvogel being your leading tackler. He threw his body around last week, but 12 tackles for a defensive back is not what you like to see if you're the Warriors. And also, that was a really good River Falls team, weren't they?
Yeah, they're outstanding, and I'm actually really interested to see what it looks like in the postseason for them, because they have a lot of weapons.
Yeah.
There's about 3 guys on that team you'd love to have on your fantasy football team. When you look at those stats, when you look at 6 touchdowns and that passing efficiency and their ability to run the ball most efficiently right between the tackles, right down the gut. Obviously West missing a guy or 2 up the middle, but at the end of the day, River Falls just had way too many weapons. And if you look at Wausau West, they kind of did what they've been doing on offense, right? Cooper DePoit rushed for 100 yards, Shea Jones 4 catches, a touchdown or 2. Like you said, you don't want Miles Wavagel being a leading tackler, which is kind of the case against Spash too, in that win. But yeah, definitely they struggled up the middle a little bit and came off, had a decent start to the game, but had a really difficult time maintaining an offensive presence on Friday night.
Yeah, well, I want to kind of talk about what I saw when we talk about the preview of the playoff game coming up, because I think that you're exactly right, and I think it'll be a similar kind of challenge for West coming up this week, and maybe a couple of things that they can try to change in order to get a better result coming up on Friday. And then the final Valley game had Eau Claire North defeat Wisconsin Rapids by a score of 35-28. 3-6 for the Huskies, 2-4 in the conference. Rapids 0-9 and 0-6. Owen Richardson, the Wisconsin Rapids quarterback, was 23 of 46, 375 yards and 3 touchdowns. Bryson Spranger had 3 catches for 108 yards and a touchdown as well for Wisconsin Rapids. Zachary Shipman had a massive night for Eau Claire North, 26 rushes, 256 yards and 4 touchdowns. One thing about that game is I was following the score on Friday night, and was like 21-0 in the first half. North for Wisconsin Rapids, when you're 0-8 and you're in that situation that on the road, they came back and they made a football game out of it, able to pull back and have a chance to win. So you have an 0-9 year for Wisconsin Rapids, and we had Mike Krenz on before week number 1, our first guest of the season. Is Mike Krenz, obviously. What do you think he takes away now from this season? Because they did, as we talked about, play better in the last half of the season, gave themselves chances to win football games. As a first-year coach, knowing the project, what do you think he takes away right now?
I think first off, obviously what they were doing all season long, in particular the second half, was taking the small victories out of each week's win and building off of that. And as you watch the final scores, the starts to games, how they finished games, they definitely improved throughout the season. I think one of the biggest things they exit 2025 with and hit the ground running this offseason with is their offense, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Rapids ran the option offense and their version of it for however long, 30, 40 years, whatever the heck it was. And he came in not knowing guys. I mean, he stuck to what he wanted to do and what he knows and what their new offensive identity is going to be. And they seriously got better at it every single week. They obviously, the way they started games, scoring 2 touchdowns in the first quarter, first half, pretty consistently down the stretch, tells me they were prepared and ready to play football games. And now that the coaching staff and the returners know what it is to expect and what they're looking for on offense, your offseason becomes completely different. You now have an entire offseason. You know Rapids is going to be great in the weight room, and Coach Krenz will make sure to follow through with that like they've been forever and ever. But now you're looking at, like, we need guys who can throw the ball. We need guys who can catch the ball. We need those big guys up front to give us time to throw the ball. And then we can do a lot more with that in the contact days, our open gyms in the wintertime, that sort of thing. So I think obviously nobody wants to be 0-9, but I think realistically, if you look at the conference, you look at the crossover games, people thought that this certainly was a possibility, regardless of how big of an impact, because of the numbers, right? Like, it wasn't like he inherited a group that had had a lot of success over the last few years either. So I think at the end of the day, you assess the season. You're certainly not satisfied with 0-9, but you have a lot of positives to build off of as they walked out of this season. And I think next year they'll kind of be ready to roll.
And again, I think that being in Eau Claire last week, falling behind like that, it would have been so easy to pack up and get ready to get that bus started. And I think that says a lot for the coaches and the players, for that squad to be able to finish off and have a good second half and finish off on a high note.
Yeah, you get to week 9 of the regular season and you're an 0-8 football team, and your team is probably full of wrestlers at Rapids and basketball players, and most of those kids already have one foot out the door. So I think you make an excellent point, and he kept these kids dialed in. They competed right up until the final whistle. Certainly have some things to hang their hat on and some optimism for the future.
Great Northern Conference, Mosinee, boy, they played well coming down the stretch, and they finished off a co-championship with a 48-14 win at Medford. 7-2 for Mosinee, 6-1 in the conference. Medford 3-6, 3-4 in the league. Treve Stoffel 5 of 6, 114 yards, 3 touchdowns, 9 rushes, 114 yards, 3 touchdowns. That's a nice balance. We get 114 yards passing, 3 touchdowns, 114 rushing, 3 touchdowns. It was 41-0 at halftime. I mean, that was, that's their big rivalry game, and they went over there and they made a long night for the Medford Raiders.
They made a long night for the Raiders and probably created a long memory for the Medford Raiders too. That was 41-0 at halftime. That's going to be something the Medford won't forget anytime soon. You mentioned it played really strong down the stretch. Ultimately, they played pretty darn well to start the year too. They had a great win against Stratford to start. I mean, week 2 they lost to a really tough Menasha team who ended up being a great team this year, and really played well. I think staying healthy for them was big. I think one of the challenges that they have in the postseason is it all Treve Stoffel or nothing? Like, are they going to have other weapons? Are they going to have other guys step up? When you get to that level 2, those level 3 games, those teams are able to shut one guy down and shut one of your assets down as far as running or passing the ball. So they definitely have a challenge ahead of them, but you certainly can't take anything away from what they accomplished this year.
Tomahawk, what a year for Tomahawk. They also get the co-championship, 8-1, 6-1 in the conference. They beat Lakeland 28-13 last week. Lakeland 5-4, 3-4. Lakeland led 7-6 at halftime in this game, but Tomahawk came back to win. Tegan Saracen, 28 rushes, 124 yards, 3 touchdowns. Rex Riley, 10 tackles and interception for Tomahawk. Sean Morgan, 18 tackles, a sack, and a fumble recovery for Lakeland. But for Tomahawk, I mean, this was a season to remember because they had been a football program that had struggled for quite a long time.
Yeah, I think so many reasons, right? Like, have struggled for a long time. Entered this conference last year, if I'm not mistaken, when the realignment happened. I think this is just year 2, and they're the smallest team in that conference by a long shot. Like when they came back in for football, I think there was some head scratching going on. Like, are we sure this is the right decision? Obviously, they have a really great group of kids right now, but I think ultimately, when you look at a team that's built for the postseason, right? Like with their enrollment, what the division that they're in, they've played from behind. They've played really close games. They've blown people out. They've had different guys be successful from week to week, running the ball, making big plays on defense. I think this Tomahawk team has the potential to make a nice run in the playoffs.
They have a interesting number 2 seed we'll talk about later as well. But Wassa East, they win their final 2 games to get into the playoffs. They beat Anago last week, 42-0. East 4-5, 3-4 in the conference. Anago 1-8, 0-7. Ian Stahl, 14 rushes, 286 yards and 4 touchdowns. Peyton Nest, 15 tackles for East. East put themselves kind of back against the wall, and they had to win those last 2 games, and they did it, and they're going to be in the playoffs for the second straight year.
Yeah, I think a really nice win for their program and Coach Kramer. Great night for Ian Stahl. Great season for Ian Stahl. I mean, I think last year, one of the biggest things for East and their success is they had a lot of big plays. They had a lot of big time players, those kids who were also really good basketball players for them. So a lot of big, long touchdown passes, that sort of thing. Seemed a little bit to start the year that's kind of how they were going to rely on it again, and had a little bit of success with it. But ultimately that ended up not being their game. They also made the quarterback change about midway through, but obviously their ability to run the football has worked out really well for them this season.
Merrill, good finish for the Blue Jays, 6-3, 5-2 in the conference. They defeat Rhinelander last week, 27-13. Rhinelander 3-6 overall, 2-5 in the conference. Cole Rudai, 5 of 9, 80 yards, a touchdown, 12 rushes, 105 yards in the score. Hunter Opper, who will be our student athlete guest later in the show, 9 tackles and 4 sacks for Merrill. Cyrus Leisure, 101 yards rushing, a couple touchdowns, 5 catches, 61 yards as well for Rhinelander. But for Merrill, I mean, this was a really solid season for the Merrill Blue Jays, winners, I think, of 5 of their last 6, and they earned a home game in the playoffs as well.
Yeah, I think a really nice step forward for them this year, right? Last year they were kind of up and down, but finished the season strong, had a nice level 1 win, made it to level 2. And so you always wonder what's the offseason like? What is next season going to look like? And I think when you look at talking to coach and goals and things you want to improve on from year to year, I think you could confidently say that Merrill has taken a nice step forward as a team and program this season.
CWC large. And again, remember when we were having doubts about Stratford early in the season? Well, they really finished off their season with some big wins, including 50-0 over Loyal Greenwood last Friday. Stratford wins 7 straight to wrap up the regular season, 7-0 conference champions, 7-2 overall. Loyal Greenwood started 4-0. They lose their final 5 games. They are 4-5 overall, 2-5 in the conference. An offense that struggled early throwing the football for Stratford also got hot near the end of the season. Brady Berg, 12 of 14, 232 yards and 6 touchdowns. Xander Whistling had 5 catches, 98 yards and 2 scores for Stratford. But talk about 2 ships that were going in different directions early in the season towards and finished in very different spots at the end of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I think you give a lot of credit to Stratford, new coach. Probably took some time for these kids to buy in, do some things different. A lot of roles changed this year, right? They had a lot of kids who played a lot of football the last 3 years on those 3 consecutive state championships who graduated last year. So there's definitely a transition period, both from a player and coach standpoint, but they certainly seem to have righted the ship and are heading at the right direction and playing their best football at the right time of the year.
Amherst, a good win at Wittenberg-Burnhamwood last week. They bounced back from that loss to Stratford 2 weeks ago, and Amherst put up a 56 spot on the Chargers, 56-28. So Amherst 8-1 overall, 6-1 in the conference. Whitburn 4-5, 3-4 in the league. Aiden Nairdahl, big night, 13 rushes, 243 yards and 5 touchdowns. Michael Gladowski, multifaceted quarterback, did another nice job with 8 of 12 passing, 150 yards and 2 scores for the Falcons. Caden Yeager had a nice night for Wittenberg, 141 yards rushing, 151 through the air. But I was, I guess, a little surprised because Wittenberg had played really tough football against Stratford at home, and they took them to overtime. I think that's a really significant win for Amherst because they kind of, I thought, struggled a little bit, even in their wins later in the season, and that loss to Stratford. But boy, they went to Wittenberg and really were impressive last week.
Yeah, Amherst was so good at the beginning of the season, and at a time when Stratford wasn't playing very good football, and it seemed like Amherst was really trending in that direction. And I think you hit it on the head. They struggled a little bit. I mean, the record doesn't show it other than the Stratford loss, but they weren't dominating like they kind of were early in the season. So I think this is a good win for them. And I think it kind of speaks a little bit to where Wittenberg was all year this year. They kind of were up and down and lost some games early that were kind of head scratchers. We knew they also had some injuries, but then they seemed to be playing much better football in the middle and then kind of stumbled down the stretch. So very, very inconsistent year and certainly one where their coaching staff and probably team is looking back at that schedule and wondering where some of those wins went.
2 overtime losses in a 9-game schedule can really skew things.
Absolutely.
I think so. Spencer Columbus wins in Marathon, 14-6. Spencer Columbus, again, a team that's been following a bit this season, just because I saw them kind of building early on with some pretty good performances against tough competition. And then when they got rid of the Stratfords and the Amhersts of the world, they started winning football games. They are 5-4, 4-3 in the league. Marathon, 4-5, 3-4, still heading to the playoffs. Marathon actually had a pretty dominant edge in yardage, nearly a 2-1 edge, 243 to 122, but that's not the numbers that count. Truthers was 14 of 26, 130 yards and a touchdown, 109 yards rushing as well, 8 tackles as well, had a big night. But I think both these teams, as they go to the playoffs, have to feel like they accomplished something significant during the regular season.
Yeah, definitely. I think Spencer Columbus is probably one of those candidates for most improved in that league this year. I think part of those early games you talk about playing those good teams, part of it is is surviving them, right? I mean,
Mhm.
you don't want to get humiliated, but you kind of keep your depth and stay away from some of those injuries. And I think they avoided that. And Marathon, obviously, probably a disappointing loss for them. This is probably one they thought they were in a
Yeah.
really good position to go into the playoffs on a high note. But if you look at where they were last year and where they are this year, I think kind of some of the things we talked about with that changing of the head coach and heading in the right direction, it seems like there's a lot of confidence there. It seems like
Mhm.
they're playing with a lot of energy, a lot of mental toughness. So a lot of good things for that Marathon football program this year. And I think being back in the playoffs is huge. I mean, that's the
Mhm.
beauty of football, right? The
Mhm.
only sport where you don't automatically make the playoffs. So making it's a big deal. First year coach, I think that's a really nice tip of the hat for them.
Wyowega Fremont's heading to the playoffs. They beat Colby last week 22-14. So Wyowega 5-4, 3-4 in the conference. Colby 1-8, 0-7 in the conference. Dawson Lind 14 rushes, 85 yards and a touchdown. But the big number was 16 tackles on the defensive side. Chase Heeg had 24 rushes for 94 yards for Colby. For Wyowega, obviously they needed to win that game to get into the postseason. And I think Colby, a dip, but you think that program will be back.
Absolutely. Too well coached, too much tradition there for them to sit. Obviously, don't know all the details. I know injuries were definitely part of it, but a season for them to forget, but also a good way to motivate them this offseason and take a big step forward next year.
Merriwood CWC, Edgar over Abbotsford 28-0. Edgar finishes perfect in the regular season. Abby 6-3, 5-2. Maverick Butt 19 rushes, 190 yards and a touchdown, added 8 tackles in Abbotsford. I don't think we see this very often. They did not get to triple digits in rushing, 95 yards on the ground, only 8 through the air as that Edgar defense, allowing only 12 points total in the regular season.
Yeah, when's the last time an Edgar running back had 19 attempts in a game? So pretty remarkable there. But definitely, I think Edgar was kind of making a statement, not necessarily against Abbotsford, but maybe towards their postseason opponents, that they're very capable. And obviously, anytime you can play defense the way Edgar does, you got a really good chance to win a lot of games down the stretch.
Auburndale finishes 8-1 and 6-1 in the conference, beating Iola Scandinavia 56-7. Rough year for the T-Birds. 2-7, 1-6 in the conference. Nathan Van Wy, 11 rushes, 243 yards, 4 touchdowns for Auburndale. Had that one game against Edgar. Otherwise, just a very consistent regular season for Auburndale.
Yeah, I feel like over the last few years, Auburndale's kind of had some tougher games during the year and maybe some tough early exits from the postseason. This seems to be one of the more consistent Auburndale teams we've seen in the last few years. So pretty optimistic heading into the postseason for them.
Pittsville wins their third straight, 28-14 over Pacelli, 4-5 for Pittsville, 3-5 in the conference, 2-7 for Pacelli, 2-5 in the conference. Dawson Luther, 16 rushes, 175 yards, 3 touchdowns for Pittsville. Bryce Flaker, 19 rushes for 110 yards, 2 scores for Pacelli. A late rush, and I think this is very similar to last year for Pittsville. They went through that gauntlet of the big teams in their conference early and then able to take advantage late and squeeze into the playoffs.
Yeah, Dawson Luther obviously had a down night with only 175 yards, but doing a nice job running the football right now. Anytime you can do that consistently, I think it makes you hopeful heading into the postseason. But good win for them. Good job down the stretch. Making the playoffs is a great accomplishment.
Assumption got a forfeit over Roshout. In the end, that turned out to be significant for Assumption to get another win the easy way. And then finally in the 8-player playoffs, a couple of teams in our area involved. A game that we had here on 98.9 WXCO on Saturday. And the injuries and the numbers finally caught up with the Newman Cardinals. They fell to Frederick 65-0. 7-2 for Frederick, 5-4 for Newman Catholic. Tristan Fisher, the senior, had a nice game for the Cards. 7 catches, 114 yards, 7 tackles, and interception. But missing 3 two-way starters and having a couple of others that were limited. There's only so much you can do. And the old adage, and Coach Micklich says this all the time, is, yeah, in the pros, next man up can mean something. But when you're limited in numbers, you lose half your starters, basically. It's hard to make up for.
Yeah, I think if most people in our area know and understand 8-man football through the lens of Newman Catholic, right? I mean, all the great teams in the state championships and the deep playoff runs. I think this season speaks, the last 2 seasons, right, with the injuries kind of speak to how fragile the difference between winning and losing, but probably even more so winning or losing big, right? Like this game's a lot more competitive, maybe even a win for Newman Catholic if they have everybody they have. But I think it also speaks to what's happening in 8-man football. I think it's come a long way. I think there's a lot more teams that are a lot more competitive than there was 5, 6, 7, 10 years ago when this whole thing was rolling. So I think it's another nice season for Newman Catholic, right? And part of some of those, as Coach Micklig would tell us if he was here, these are some of the years where you do your best coaching, right? When you have these challenges to overcome, not from week to week, but in game oftentimes when these injuries happen and you figure out who the next man up is going to be. But yeah, there's a lot of good teams left in that 8-man, and it should be a great challenge or a great battle to see who takes home that state championship this year.
And one of our area teams that's still involved in the 8-player playoffs is Athens. And boy, a very impressive win beating Niagara. Niagara came to Wausau earlier in the year, had a 22-14 game against Newman, and a team that made the playoffs as well. But boy, Athens came out and they just took it to Niagara. 7-2 now for the Blue Jays. Niagara finishes 4-5. Evan Pasale, who was our student athlete guest a few weeks back, had 177 yards, 2 touchdowns for Athens. And we're going to learn about this Athens team coming up in 1 minute. We're going to take a 1-minute break and then hear from the head football coach of Athens High School, who's taken his team to the postseason and now into the Level 2 playoffs. We'll talk to Todd Diethelm coming up next. Back in 1 minute, it is the Big High School Sports Show here on 98.9 WXCO.
For more than 60 years, Sun Printing has been Central Wisconsin's printer of choice due to their commitment to quality, creative solutions, and dedicated service. Sun Printing's team offers you a wide spectrum of services. Whether you need vehicle graphics, offset, digital, large format, graphic designer mailing, they print everything under the sun. No project is too big or too small. So give Sun Printing a call at 845-4911 or visit them online at sunprinting.com.
Looking to turn your dream home into reality? K5 Construction is here to make it happen. From complete home builds to interior remodeling, decks and exterior upgrades, they handle it all. At K5, they focus on quality, excellence, and you. From design to final construction, they're with you every step of the way, on time and on budget. Whether it's your first home or your forever home, they're building your future. Build with confidence. Build with K5 Construction. Visit buildwithk5.com.
And welcome back. It is the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. With former Wausau West head football coach Jason Foster, I'm Chad Holmes, and it's time now for our coach guest for this week. And we're very happy to welcome in via computer the head football coach of the Athens Blue Jays, as we just said, still involved in the 8-player football playoffs, heading to Level 2, head coach Todd Diethelm. And Coach, first of all, thanks for spending a few minutes with us tonight. Oh, Coach, I don't hear you. Let me check this out here. I think we're okay here. Let me check this out, Coach. Hang on there. We're going to remove you and bring you right back here, Coach. I'm not sure if it's on our end, but we're going to just try something here. And let's see, because technology sometimes can be so finicky. We're going to bring you back here, Coach. And Coach, I don't hear you. Why don't we hear you? As always, the technology. Yeah, I don't see it. Are you sure that I don't see you? You're not muted. So it's hey, Coach, I gave you the phone number. Could you give me a call on the phone and we'll take you that way? That'd be terrific. All right, we're gonna have the coach call us up here, and I'm going to wait for the phone to ring because doggone radio audio is all we need. I mean, we'd love to have the opportunity to talk with the video stream as well because of the opportunity. But as you said, Coach Foster, I mean, we're seeing so many. Oh, here we go. We're going to bring the coach right on up. Hey, Coach, thanks for calling us up.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all. Number one, congratulations on what's been a terrific season for your team, because last year did not win many games. It was probably a frustrating year. What's been the difference between last year and this year? Because boy, it's been quite a turnaround over at Athens.
Yeah, I got to give a lot of credit to the players for showing up and coming in, the off season, what makes the difference. And they really bought into that this year. And we got not a large group of seniors, but a good group of seniors that kind of took the bull by the horns and rallied the troops and came in and put in a lot of extra time.
Coach, first off, congratulations on a great season thus far. We love talking a lot about 8-man football here on the show, and we spend a lot of time talking about Newman Catholic, and Coach Micklig's been on several times. Can you give us your perspective on what makes 8-man football such a strong and positive game and keep growing? And what is the difference between 11-man football and 8-man football?
I guess 8-man football, when we first changed over, it wasn't something we wanted to do. It was out of necessity of our numbers. And it was, a learning curve. And I will give Coach Paul Micklig a lot of credit. He kind of walked me through some things, and we learned some things through that. But it still gives our small school a chance to play football. And once you get on the field, it's still football. You still got to scheme, and you still got to watch film, and you still got to prepare. And it really, and our whole school has really rallied around the 8-player game, and it's been a lot of fun. And as you can see this year, the kids bought in, and we got more numbers. We got a group of 10 freshmen that came out this year, and a couple of them actually contributed a little bit. And the game really has taken off, and you can tell by how much it moved south from it all used to be northwest, and now it's all the way down, going down to Assumption next year. So it's really growing.
I want to talk a little bit about that numbers aspect in a moment, but I first want to ask you about the game last Saturday. It was a 5 versus a 4 game. You look at the brackets, you think 5 versus 4, tight matchup. Niagara, a team that, as I said, I had a chance to see the film of their game against Newman earlier this year. They played a 1-score game over at Wausau, and your team was able to win 46-0 and just really make a little bit of a statement on Saturday. What worked for your team in that game on Saturday?
We preach all year. We're not big. I mean, our biggest kid's 210 pounds on our team. And we preach about being physical. You don't have to be the biggest guy to be the most physical guy. And they learn that through the summer workouts, and they learn that the first, we call Hell Week of practice. And they really came out and we took it to them. You kick them in the mouth right away and stay physical. And that's what we did. And I mean, we scored on the third play of the game, and then we got the ball back, and on the very next play we scored again. And that really motivates us. And I have to give a shout out to our crowd. We had over 400 people in the stands for a small community, and that was amazing. So that really lifted us through that game as well.
Yeah, I think one of the misconceptions out there about 8-man football is people just oftentimes relate it to like 7-on-7. Then it's a lot of passing and a lot of big numbers. And certainly there are teams out there that do it that way. But I like what you said about staying physical. And the one thing I've really noticed in covering the 8-man games this year is what an important role rushing the football and the really big numbers we've seen rushing. Tell us a little bit about your rushing attack and how that helps you guys kind of make a statement of what brand of football you play.
Yeah, and you had Paseo on a couple weeks ago, and he's our main guy. But I call it our 3-headed monster. Our quarterback's a great rusher. Our wingback doesn't get a lot of touches, but he's very dangerous. And just staying physical. Our line is small, but we pull and we move guys around, and they always got to be accountable for one out of 3 guys. So I think that makes us dangerous. And our Evan is a very physical runner. On his second touchdown, he broke like 8 tackles last week. So it's that mentality of staying physical and doing your jobs. I mean, we preach that nonstop. So
I want to kind of go back to, you mentioned that the numbers are good. It really is a thin line, whether it's a smaller school, an 11-player, or any of the schools, I think an 8-player, where the numbers, where you hit those, even just a few extra players that can make it so much easier to run a practice, I think, the way that you would like to in terms of preparing for each game, and then having that ability that if maybe one player does go down, you do have a little bit of depth. It sounds like that little bit of extra has been a factor for your team this year. Would that be correct?
That's 100% correct. I mean, we had first day of practice, we had 27 kids show up, which is a great number for us, even though 9 were freshmen. But we had a good number, and like you said, the first year we went to 8-man, we couldn't even run a scout team against our offense or defense. We didn't have enough kids to do that. So the number is just great. But the next man up mentality, heard you guys saying that earlier in the show, and Paul's absolutely correct. It's still 8-man football. You don't have that, but having depth, I mean, you could actually shuffle a few guys around to make it at least competitive.
Yeah, and one of my favorite parts of the show each week is learning about the teams. And we had Evan on, like you said, a few weeks ago, and he did a phenomenal job and gave us a lot of insight into the team. What are the names? Who are some of the other guys that are playing a big role, either through their stats or just through what they bring to the field, through their toughness and leadership?
Our assistant coach calls our linemen the dogs, so I'm going to give a shout to them. Jeffrey Draper, Evan, Cole Hartman, and Jordan Frame, and then our ends. They're long and lanky, and they do a nice job blocking. Plus, they catch the ball very well, and that's Brock Beatty and Shaylin Blake. And then our wing is Daxton Detail, and that's my nephew, so I got to give a shout to him. My brother. And then, of course, Cam Zarnke, our quarterback, and he runs the show. I mean, I can just, and he kind of reads my mind, which is really nice. I can yell out a couple plays, goes, I got it, and he runs out there and he calls it and huddle and goes. So it's nice to have that leadership stuff, and he's been in that position for 2 years now, and there's like another coach on the field that really helps.
It's great whenever the coaches talk about the linemen. And I've said the coaches, like when I do a broadcast, and I think it's unfair in a sense when I do the halftime stats or the post-game stats, it's all numbers for the guys that touch the football. I don't have the stats for the guys up front, but those guys who put the numbers up, those are the reason they get the numbers are the guys up front. And I think there is a little misconception that, because you don't have the base 5 up front in the 8-player game, that somehow it is, less important. But in the years I've been covering 8-player football, boy, if you can't either protect your quarterback or be able to open up a hole for your running backs, it's just as important up front as it is in the 11-player game, isn't it?
100%. You said the base 5, and I like that because I call our guys tight ends, but they're actually tackles in the regular game. So, they can catch the ball, and they're probably a little smaller than tackles would be, but they still got to block well or they don't play.
Yeah, and one of my favorite things from my time coaching is I'm definitely a defensive guy, and one of the questions that I always have for 8-man is it almost more of a challenge in your defensive preparation from week to week, knowing that the things are so different traditionally from an 8-man standpoint as far as alignment and that sort of thing. Is it a bigger challenge to prepare defensively from week to week?
I think that's very true. I think defense is the hardest thing to prepare in 8-man, mostly because, any cutback lane, the guy's gone. You see big numbers, and that's the reason why. But we stick with our base more than not, but we try to change things around. If you play a physical team, of course, like a Flambeau that we played early in the year, that's very physical, and you have to be able to adjust on the fly. We got 1 or 2 bigger bodies that we can throw out there, but yeah, defense is definitely hardest to adjust to going to 8-man football.
In a week 1 in the playoffs, pitching a shutout, who stood out last week on defense for you?
Well, Evan Paseo, I think he led our team in tackles, but our D-backs did a nice job. They ended up, when we scouted them, they didn't throw a lot, but because they couldn't run real well against us, but they started throwing the ball well, and our D-backs really stood out. We had an interception. We had a D-back knock a ball out of the running back, and we recovered it. And so our secondary, our back, would say 7, but now it's our back 5 or 4 that did a nice job.
Let's look ahead to this week's game, because you face now a number 1 seed, an undefeated team, Lena St. Thomas Aquinas. And you mentioned that earlier in the year, you faced Flambeau, who's a team that's been either at or number 1 among the teams in 8-player football in the state of Wisconsin so far this year. You faced a Phillips team that is a very good football program. They've had some real successful seasons. Their average enrollment has been above the limit, so they're not involved in the playoffs the last couple of years. Those 2 games, and of course you had, the other games that you've all won, but those two games where you had the Flambeau game that you lost early in the season, then just a couple of weeks ago you had the Phillips game that looks like it must have been a lot of fun, at least for some folks, maybe not the defensive coaches, in a 52-40 game. But what do you take away from those games earlier that will help you this week?
Yeah, the physical play. I mean, the Flambeau and Phillips are physical. They run it right down your throat, and they just keep on going. And I think that'll prepare us well. I mean, as we scouted Lena St. Thomas here, that's what they do. They're big. They're big up front, and we're scheming up things that we can do to stop that. And I think our conference is one of the toughest in A, man. Like you said, with Flambeau and Phillips, and I think they'll prepare us. And we got banged up, and Flambeau halftime scores 14-8. We were down, and then we had Pasela and D-Town both got hurt, like in the first series of the second half, and then they took it to us after that. So I think them two games really prepared us for what's to come.
Do you know much other than once they became your draw for this week? Do you know much about Lena St. Thomas overall, or historically what type of team they've been?
I really didn't. We watched the state finals game, which they lost 0-1 last year in the state final game. So I kind of went back and watched that film as well, what Owen did to them. So kind of scheming that way a little bit as well, offensively and defensively. But never since, not till this week, we really looked at what they have. So.
Let me ask you about preparation in that respect, because I've often talked to coaches when you get to the playoffs, whether or not you want to face a team that you've seen before or played before or more familiar with, or do you want to go into a situation where maybe you don't know as much about them, you have not had the opportunity to play, a head-to-head matchup, but sometimes coaches love the fact that the other team is in the same boat, that the preparation, maybe for lack thereof in terms of previous tendencies and previous being on the field at the same time, can be an advantage. How do you look at it? Do you prefer to face a team that maybe like Lena St. Thomas Aquinas, that you have not had the same kind of opportunity to see in person, or do you look at it, hey, this could be an advantage for us because they're not as familiar with our team?
I think it goes both ways, right? I think they're not familiar with us, and we're not familiar with them. But I think their style of play, watching them, reminds me a lot of the Flambeaus and Phillipses. And I think we can throw a couple different things that they haven't seen yet offensively. We got a couple tricks up our sleeves that we're going to pull and see what happens. And we know we're in for a dogfight. There's no doubt about it. And we got to be ready. So I guess not knowing what they got and they not know, they have maybe advantage the underdog a little bit. I don't know. I'm going to play the underdog cards.
Love it. I think also too, how you kind of hit on it a little bit. What I was going to ask next question is not being in the playoffs last year and now making it to level 2, right? So daylight starts to change. Football's a long season that starts at the beginning of August. What do you do in these weeks, or when you get to this part of the season, to keep the kids engaged? Obviously it's exciting. They're in the playoffs. You shouldn't have to do very much, but you mentioned trick plays. What other types of things do you guys do to change up your routine or to kind of keep the kids dialed in this time of year?
Yeah, just stay sharp. I told them this week, I said, we're going to go out for 1 hour. We're going to have a sharp practice and get out of there. It doesn't pay to bang each other up anymore. I mean, like you said, it's a long year and we had enough injuries. Now we're finally healthy. We don't want to get hurt in practice. I said 1 hour, we're going to be crisp. We're going to do what we need to do and get out of there. And they're all excited about it. So our practice has been really good this week.
And something we like to ask our head coach guests, beyond what's happening right now in this season on the varsity squad. And I think you touched on it, that the trends have been good in terms of numbers for football at Athens. As you look even further down into maybe the middle school areas or the younger kids, do you sense that this is something that is going to be sustainable, that the program is in a good spot for not just now having a fantastic season, but also for the future?
I absolutely do. I mean, our numbers, we do 6 through 8. We had 39 kids in 6 through 8 out for football this year. We get a nice freshman class coming in next year again. Our numbers I'm going to say we'll level off in the, low 30s. I'm going to guess somewhere in there. And I know the 11-man keeps getting questioned back at me, but I get kind of look more than 3 years down the road. I'm going to have to look like 7 to 8 years down the road and see what our numbers are going to be like then too. So.
And along that line, and I think you're not the only one that often gets asked about, being back in 11-man at some point in the future, or we're in 8-man. But as you said, and we got Assumption coming back. You look at so many of these schools that were either former Merriwood Conference or Cloverwood Conference schools, they've all sort of gravitated to the 8-man, where it has a feeling of kind of like it was in the past, doesn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, we're going back to our old conference next year. We're switching over. We're back with Owen and Newman's joining us, so it's going to be the old Cloverwood pretty much back together again in the 8-man side of football. So it's pretty exciting, and it's nice to go back and play those teams again, and we don't have to drive to Hurley anymore. Long drive. But yeah, it's exciting. But every 2 years, who knows? Teams are going to go back and forth. So in 2 years, it could be different again. But it is what it is. And all I do is want my kids a chance to play football. That's all I care about.
Yeah, another thing, Coach, talking about the kids, and I always like to ask coaches this: with a school year size, and you talk about where your numbers are good, how important is it that you work with the other coaches for the other sports and have athletes who are playing multiple sports, 2 or 3 different ones, to kind of help each other build your programs and build that enthusiasm? Is that something that works well at Athens?
Yeah, it really does. We support each other very well here. We need everybody to do. We tell all our athletes and kids, we want you to play 2 sports. If you can do 2 sports, we're going to be fine in every sport. But when you get 60 boys in the school, and you need at least 30 to do something, and they get pulled in a lot of different directions.
Yep.
Also. But we support each other the best we can, and we'll have good numbers for our middle school is trending upward in numbers also. So I think it's coming back. But yeah, each coach gets on that bandwagon of you're going to be better if you do this sport for our sport or whatever. Even though if you love basketball, football is going to make you better for basketball, and that's kind of what we preach to our kids.
I guess my final question will be about this Friday's game. Go back to that, because it's so much. Every week that you win and you get another chance to be with your guys and have a chance to go a little deeper into a postseason run. What is your team going to have to do this Friday? What, as you've been thinking back, as you've looked at the films of your opponent, as you've been stewing over this since you won your game on Saturday, what are going to be the keys for your squad to be able to go over to a very tough football team? As you said, made it to the state championship game in Rapids last year. What will it take for you and your guys to get back on that bus late Friday night with a W?
Going to be the physical side of it. We can't back down. We can't walk out there with big eyes, because they're going to be bigger than us, but everybody was this year. So you just got to go out there and play the game. I mean, have fun. That's my talk for a game. If you're not having fun, you're in the wrong sport. So go out there and play. And I told my seniors, you got to play like it's your last game, because it could be, and get out there and do it. So, I think we'll be okay. I hope we're going to be okay. This is different territory for a lot of these kids, so we'll see what happens.
Anything else, Jason, before we let Coach go?
No, just congratulations on a great season, and good luck Friday night. Can't wait to see how you guys do.
Thank you, guys. It's an honor to be on with you guys, so thank you very much.
Absolutely. Coach Todd Diethelm of the Athens Blue Jays. They were in set for that big game against top-seeded Lena St. Thomas Aquinas coming up on Friday night. We're going to take a timeout and come back with more. It's the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO.
What's your idea of fall fun? Maybe it's hitting the trails on a new ATV. Then it's time to call CCU. That's Clover Belt Credit Union. Or if you're thinking of a UTV for hauling wood or hunting, or maybe just because it would make the tasks around your property so much easier, it's time to call CCU. ATVs, UTVs, utility tractors, and their attachments for care of your property. Whether you need it for fun or to get the job done, Clover Belt Credit Union is here to help with the great rate financing you want. What are you waiting for? Life's too short and winter's too long. Thinking about a motorhome or maybe a snowplow for your ATV or utility tractor? Call CCU for great rate financing. And if you're thinking motorcycle, Clover Belt Credit Union has the financing you need for the bike you want. Call or apply online at ccuwausau.com. Check it out. For vehicle loans, for mortgages, for financing fall fun, call Clover Belt Credit Union. That's CCU. Local lenders lending local money, keeping our community strong.
And welcome back. Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. I'm Chad Holmes along with Jason Foster. We got just a few more minutes before our top of the hour news update, and then we'll have our student athlete guest Hunter Opper from the Merrill Blue Jays coming up at 7:06. But I thought we'd start a little bit here, Coach. We had the brackets come out on Saturday morning for 11-player football. And one thing that I noticed is that a team like Stevens Point did not get the playoffs. 5-4 overall, 3-3 in the conference, 3-4 if you count that crossover game. But this year, we saw some teams that were 2-5 in the conference in the lower divisions. And it just looks to me a little bit, and I'm going to throw it out there, that maybe Division I got a little shortchanged some of these schools that were lodged into the D1 bracket, because this year we started off with every bracket already knowing where you're going to be. We're seeing some teams that would not have otherwise made the playoffs because they needed to fill in some of the lower divisions. I'm not sure that's a good thing.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I would say the other thing is, as I watched it the last 4 or 5 weeks, when you started looking more at those rankings from week to week and how it came out, very interesting how it works. Looking forward to learning more about it. But right off the bat, you could tell that there were going to be teams in Division I with significantly better records than the teams in those lower divisions who are going to be seated a lot lower. Like, I mean, there's a lot of sub 500 overall in conference teams who are 5, 6, and 7 seeds in these other brackets. And these 5-4, 6, and 3 teams are 6, 7, and 8 seeds in Division I, and some don't even make the playoffs. So yeah, I think that's probably the next step, right? This is new. It's going to be easy to pick it apart, and we'll certainly work on doing that a little bit. But I think
so.
I think those are part of the things. And that's when I think about it, obviously I think we're on the same page. You definitely noticed it right away. As you give it a little thought, I'm not 100% sure what the solution to it is right off the bat either, because if you don't predetermine what those brackets are going to be, and it's really based on enrollment, right? And I think the other thing that's going to kind of make Division I even tougher is it's the one division where you don't kick out your champion or your competitive balance score people from the year before.
You actually get good teams moved up.
That's what I mean. You don't lose your best teams.
You get more good teams,
and you get the best D2.
Yeah.
And we've watched from year to year to year that the teams who win Division II state championships, oftentimes we have conversations about how I wonder if they could have won the Division I state championship. So I think every time that happens from a competitive balance standpoint, that's kicking somebody else who was in D1 out of the playoffs likely.
And I still think there should be somehow a human element involved in it. I understand the idea of wanting to go strictly with the computers, but there's still some areas where, I mean, frankly, I think if it was a human element, you don't see Tomahawk number 1 and Stratford number 2 in that bracket.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Didn't we do that with Stratford and Auburndale a couple of years ago too?
You just
where
look at
kind
the
of that
conferences. I mean, Stratford and the CWC large is just a much tougher conference than the GNC. And the GNC, they battle each other. In the end, it actually worked out for them because 6 of the 7 teams got in the playoffs.
Right. And not only did they battle each other and they all make it in, how many of those teams were 500 or over? So in that formula or whatever they call it, wins against teams with winning records carries more weight. So I definitely think that there's going to be some teams in that bracket who are going to probably like what they see when they come up against some of those GNC schools.
We'll talk more about the playoff brackets a little bit later in the program, but coming up after our top of the hour news, we'll have our student athlete guest for this week, a young man who had a pretty big game on Friday in the Merrill win over Rhinelander, 4 sacks. Hunter Opper. He'll be our student athlete guest coming up at 7:06 after the news. With Jason Foster, I'm Chad Holmes. It is the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. And welcome back. It is hour number 2 of the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO, online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. I am Chad Holmes, joined by former Wausau West head football coach Jason Foster. And as we do every week, we always start off the second hour by having our student athlete guest join us. And tonight from Merrill High School, Hunter Opper. Hunter, thank you for making the trek down from Merrill to join us here tonight.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And I guess, first of all, it is level 1 playoff week. Does it feel different? Is it an exciting time now that you've had 9 regular season games, you had the preseason, had the off-season workouts, to be here in level 1 playoff week?
It does. For the second straight year in a row, actually, we've made it to the WIA playoffs. So our guys, we know what to expect, and it's exciting. We got a home playoff game this year we get to host. So
that's been a while for Merrill, hasn't it?
Yep. We talked about it in the beginning of the season, and that was our goal, and we got it, and now we got other goals.
Yeah, and that's kind of where my question was. We had Coach on twice last year. You guys had a great season, kind of a comeback season, right? Like bringing Merrill football back. You made the playoffs for the first time in a long time. As you went into last season and won a playoff game, I mean, all really big things. What were your goals as you exited last season and came into this past off season, coming into the rest of the last school year and this summer? What were the things you guys wanted to work on and get better at?
Obviously, we wanted to have a winning record, and we wanted to make the playoffs again, and a lot of off-season training and guys getting in the weight room and really coming together. We're making it happen.
Last year, there was some success. As you said, you made the playoffs last season. You had a really good battle. I don't think many people thought that when you went to Onalaska last year, you're going to have a chance to win that football game, and you could have very easily won that football game. How much did having that little bit of success add to the entire spirit of the program? Because I imagine it's a lot easier to get people into the weight room, work in the off season, come out for football when you have a little bit of success, and it's probably much easier to walk around the halls at Merrill during the school days as well.
Yeah, we made it last year. We're 7 seed playing the 2 seed, and obviously that's a big difference. And we went up there with full intentions of we're going to win a playoff game, and 13-7 fell short, but we battled, and now taking that into this year, I mean, we know what to expect. We don't want to lose again. Us seniors, I mean, if we lose, we're done. We're in it.
You talk about being seniors. You'd mentioned that earlier, your big game. We'll talk a lot more about that in a little bit. But coming on senior night last Friday night, tell me about the role that the senior leadership has played on both in the off season and what you've been able to accomplish this year.
Yeah, we have multiple leaders. I mean, not even all of them are seniors, but Noah Klug, he stepped up. He's Keelan. I mean, myself, Mason, all the seniors, a lot of them were in the weight room this summer and getting work in, doing extra practices, going to 7-on-7s. I mean, all of it's paying off now.
What does leadership mean within your group in terms of how do you show it with your guys? I mean, maybe an example, because there's so many different ways you can lead, and there's different ways that for different types of personalities that you can lead. Well, maybe how would you describe yourself as a leader? What are you able to do?
A lot of it is the little things people don't look at. Is maybe you're having a hard practice and you're going and you knock one of the younger kids over, help them up, pick them up. They're in there trying to make you better. You're in there trying to make them better. And I mean, that's what we focused on as a team is the Merrill Blue Jays. We stick together. We got each other's backs.
And plays such a big role getting better from last year to this year. And for those guys to improve on wherever you guys end up this year heading into next season. We talked a little bit about the playoffs off the air and matchups and different things. Tell me about the conference season, because this year in the Great Northern was very different than the past, right? The top of the leaderboard certainly looked a little different than it had. So tell me a little bit about the conference season and what was kind of surprising and how things went.
I mean, first we started off with Mosinee, and Mosinee's always been a tough team, and we lost by 7. We did mean, we were expecting to win, but we did a lot better than we thought. And then we go on a 4-game win streak, and then we got Tomahawk, which is we're thinking is this is conference title game. Like we win, we're still in the running for conference, and if we lose, and we ended up losing, tough game, but we bounced back, came back, and won against Rylander.
Could you talk a little bit about those teams, Mosinee and Tomahawk? What made them successful this season as an opponent of those teams? You said you went to Mosinee early in the season. In the past, that's always been a very difficult matchup for the Merrill Blue Jays. It's been a very tough trip home after that, but you said it was a 21-14 game. What jumped out about Mosinee in that game? And maybe what was the difference for your team that maybe as you go into the playoffs, you have to be better at?
I mean, we actually scored first that game, and we were rolling, and came down to the last 2 minutes. We had the ball possession and just couldn't make that 2-minute drill happen. And we practice 2-minute drill every day before game day now, and it's been paying off more. We finish.
And what about Tomahawk? They were the surprise this season. I mean, it came out of nowhere. It looks like they built some momentum from their hockey state championship. What was it about Tomahawk, and what was it like up there? Could you sense that that community was very excited about what Tomahawk football has been able to do?
Yeah, we coming into this year, we obviously they were on our radar. We were watching them. Everybody's looking, and we knew they were going to be tough. But getting up there, and it's just Merrill versus Tomahawk, parents, everybody, fans. I mean, everybody. That was a game. That was the game of the year.
Yeah, I would agree. I think for me, going through this conference and knowing that 6 of the 7 teams in a conference made the playoffs, I mean, that usually doesn't happen. So, I mean, congratulations to a great a conference on a great season and getting that many teams in. To me, when we talk about Merrill football and kind of when we do the matchups each week and talk about them the week after, to me, when Merrill looked to me like, okay, these guys are for real, was the 2-week stretch when you went back to back played a really tough game against Mosinee, which I think raised some eyebrows, and then followed it up the next week with a win against Medford. I don't know when the last time that Mosinee beat Medford and how
Merrill beat Medford.
That's what I meant. That's what I meant.
I'm gonna save you here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So Merrill beating Medford. It's been a long time since you guys beat Medford. So kind of that was, I mean, had to give you some confidence and get you guys to believe. I think at the end of the year, reflect back and say Mosinee's down a little, or Medford is down a little bit this year, but obviously a really nice 2-week stretch that probably gave you guys a lot of confidence. Does that sound right?
Yeah, I think we looked at it and it was like 10 years or something since we beat Medford, and we got to do it at home. So that always makes it better.
And also as a defensive player in that game, forced a lot of turnovers.
Yeah, I think we had 6 turnovers.
What was the key in forcing all those turnovers that night?
We were ready. I mean, after taking that tough loss against Mosinee, we wanted it. First conference home game, and we were attacking. We're flying around, playing fast, and that's what we do.
I love it. I'm a defensive guy, and I love when Chad picks guests based on defensive performances. You had an outstanding week last week, 9 tackles, 4 sacks. I mean, for a lot of guys, that's a season. That's a heck of a night, heck of a senior night. Tell me a little bit more about your defense. What is the style? What is your style of play? What is the style of play of your overall defense? And who are the other key members of your defense?
I kind of play like I don't know. I would say a faster D lineman, only reaching about 200 pounds, but I can also take on run plays. I mean, everybody plays fast. We got Mason Block and Jay Steinugel, 2 big guys up on the inside, and our other D end, actually, he's a junior, stepped up to play D end this year, and he's doing phenomenal. I mean, safety Keelan, we kind of move him around wherever we need him. He's our playmaker all over. So we got a lot of good guys coming together.
Who is your favorite rival? You've talked about a lot of different teams. You have Mosinee and Medford, and Wausau East is there, and Tomahawk. I mean, Rhinelander, you said it's always a big game. Who is the team that you look most forward to playing?
I would say the Merrill Blue Jays rival is the Anago Red Robins. But
the War on 64, right?
My biggest rival is East. I think Wausau East is a big rival because we'd lost a tough game to them, to bad scenarios and whatever happened last year, but I just really wanted to beat them this year. So they were my rival this year.
Is it the same in wrestling? I guess we already keep we usually ask you what the other sports, but you mentioned to us earlier. In wrestling, is it the same, or because it's kind of different? You have the team aspect, but you also have those individual battles as well. Do you have a favorite on the mats?
I would say East is up there again. They're close. They're close school, rival school, but we're actually in a different wrestling conference this year,
Yeah.
so we'll wrestle some new competition.
I was just gonna ask that exact question. Like, this is the first year for Merrill in the GNC for everything. What is the mindset around you guys as athletes and you guys as coaches? Is this something you guys have looked forward to and are excited about being in that conference for everything, knowing that you have some history with them in football? So do you guys think this is a good step for you?
I think it's a good step. Yeah, we've always played tough competition, and we're still playing tough competition, but we're also tough too. So
Again, we're talking to Hunter Opper from Merrill High School, our student athlete guest this week on the Big High School Sports Show. Let's step away from sports for just a few moments. In school, what's your favorite class?
probably graphics classes. I'm in a lot of graphics classes this
Who was
year.
your teacher, or who's your favorite teacher there?
Probably my sports graphics teacher or graphics teacher, which is Mr. Wagner or Mr. Krieger.
Mr. Krieger, awesome. I know that you play multiple sports. I know you've talked about spending a lot of time in the weight room. When you do have some free time, what do you like to do?
I like to hunt, fish, hang time with my dad, set tree stands. I mean, trap, hang out with friends, go to the gym.
What kind of hunting? Are you a bow guy? You a gun guy?
Both actually.
What do you know what you think you want to do after this school year? Do you have plans in place already? Or still up in the air? What are your thoughts?
I actually, with football and stuff going through colleges and stuff like that, I mean, I've been looking at a couple, but I thought about going into like the trades or something. But now that football or colleges are getting to me, I've been looking at what colleges have to offer, because a lot of that is normally you just go to the tech for that. But
Right.
Are you hoping to continue athletics at the next level?
yeah, I would like to play at the next level.
And is it football? Is it
Football, wrestling,
Okay.
I mean, both.
Well, let's talk a little bit about the wrestling aspect. What weight division do you participate in wrestling?
The last 2 years I wrestled at 165. This year I'm a little bit bigger, coming in at like 200 right now. So we'll see. I got that 190, and we'll see if I cut down to 75 this year or not. But
I would say, is it fair to say that wrestling is maybe in a similar spot to football? I know there's some pretty strong tradition of wrestling at Merrill, and I know that maybe within the last 5 years, you guys hadn't been as good as you had been historically. I know you guys kind of took a nice step forward in wrestling last year as well. Is that kind of the same mindset?
yeah, I mean, a big help is we got a big group of seniors. Like my senior class got like 15 for football, and I think just as many football players that play football are going to wrestle this year. So
Do you have a group of friends that are similar for football and wrestling?
yeah, I do. I got my friend Ben Gruitt. He plays football. He wrestles. Preston Schulke, Noah Klug. Yeah, a lot of guys.
Well, those are all big Merrill names, right?
Yep.
Those guys been
Yep.
around the program for a long time. What is the mindset this week in practice? I mean, how much has changed? We asked Coach this a little while ago, right? We get to this point of the season, it gets dark a little bit earlier. This is the first week where it's been in the 50s and a little bit rainy. How have things looked different this week in practice as you prepare for a playoff game?
A big thing in practice is our leaders again stepping in. Everybody knows it's cold, and there's nothing we can do about it. Coaches are pushing us. Our guys know they got to get it done. Practice, get that practice done, get to go home.
What jumps out about Lakeland? You've had a chance to play them already one time. You had a nice win up in Minocqua. As you prepare for Lakeland, what do they do well? What are the things that you're going to be looking for against Lakeland?
Obviously, we beat them once already, and that can be an advantage, but it's also harder to beat a team 2 times. So, I mean, they're running different plays. They got some injuries and guys going down, and we've been adapting to that, practicing it. A lot of repetitions at defense and getting it down, what we need to do our job.
Real quickly, the mental aspect was when people like us get on the radio. Oh yeah, Lakeland's got injuries. You know, it's like how do you guys try to keep the noise out and to say, hey, that was a Lakeland team that was actually leading Tomahawk at halftime last week. Sometimes you see her, oh yeah, there's a couple of big guys out. Well, there's obviously some guys that want to get in there as well for Lakeland. How do you try to not let that talk about maybe them not being quite as strong as they were when they started off 4-0?
Well, for the most part, it's conference play. Anything can happen. And at the beginning of the year, actually, Lakeland beat Mosinee, and that's a huge win. So we know how dangerous they can be. We cannot not overlook them.
And I know and I think most people who listen know by this point too, but watching film and preparation for offense and defense against your opponent is such a big deal. But when you look at playing a team like Lakeland, or you look at your overall season as you prepared for week to week, and obviously Coach Wadzinski is kind of the leader of this, but is your mindset as a team more, what do we need to do to beat our opponent, or what is it that we need to do to play Merrill's brand of football, and it doesn't necessarily matter so much what our opponent does?
A big thing we've always talked about has been the big thing this year is 1-0. Like, we talk 1-0 every week. We practice all week. We play our game. Whatever happens, next day we move on. We're on to the next week. So this week it's Lakeland. We got to beat Lakeland at home for round 1 of the playoffs.
How meaningful is it? I know as a coach, we've talked about this tonight on the show with other guests, or just Chad and I. Football's the only sport where you have to earn your way into the playoffs. So making the playoffs is a big deal, regardless of what your record is. That's a huge first step. It's on a lot of goal boards for the year. How much more important is it to be able to say you had a home playoff game and you earned that?
It's very important, and it's very rewarding, because I think it's been like 15 years since we've won a home playoff game, and now we have an opportunity to do that. So I think it's huge.
What are the biggest things that your team has to do in order to be successful on Friday?
We got to be locked in, uptight, up above. I mean, you can't go into any week thinking, oh, we're going to blow them out, or, oh, they're good, so we're going to lose, or they got players back. That just go play football.
Is that making sure that happens? Is that something that you and the other seniors take upon yourselves to make sure each night in practice, when you get to Friday morning, when you get to Friday at lunchtime, when you get to Friday afternoon and start thinking about the game? Is that you guys, or is that more on the coaching staff?
I would say it's equal. I mean, you see the coaches throughout the day at school and stuff, and they're always talking about it. But you can just tell, like, in the locker room, when you walk in Friday after school for game, it's just you can tell everybody's knows it's game day. Like, there's not as much monkeying around, and they're locked in.
Anything else for Hunter before we get to our final question?
No, just congratulations on a great season. Congratulations on your role of bringing this football program the last 2 years back to where it is. Congratulations on a great game last Friday. That's one you'll remember for a long time, and best of luck this Friday.
Thank you.
And our final question we always ask of our student athlete guests is that, especially for seniors who are multi-sport athletes, based on what you've learned over the years since you started your high school athletic career, based on the experiences you have, when you see maybe a freshman is just starting their journey with Merrill football or Merrill wrestling, what piece of advice would you give them?
Take it all in. It goes by so fast. I remember my freshman year, Coach Wad writing up a bunch of numbers on the board, and he ended up explaining that those are the amount of guaranteed playing minutes we had left. And I got 48 left, so I got to play.
Awesome.
That is so very true. Very good advice indeed. Hunter Opper, again, congrats on all the success you and your teammates have had so far this season. Best of luck as you take on those Thunderbirds at Jay Stadium on Friday night. And thanks for coming again from Merrill here to Wausau to join us tonight.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick time out, and we're going to start looking at some of these brackets coming up, including Merrill against Lakeland and a whole bunch of other games as we continue here on 98.9 WXCO.
We are the NFHS. That stands for the National Federation of State High School Associations. But really, what we stand for, together with the WIAA, are the 178,000 high school sports students in Wisconsin. And so we stand. We stand for the runners, soccer and basketball players. We stand for their coaches, administrators, and officials. We stand for the swimmers, football players, and wrestlers. We stand for the golfers, softball, and volleyball players. We stand as the national leader and advocate for high school athletics and all who participate in them and make them possible, because it is our purpose to ensure that high school students get to play, perform, and compete together. To learn more about who we are and what we stand for, visit nfhs.org.
Are you passionate about local high school sports? So are we. WXCO 98.9 FM is proud to be the only station in Wausau bringing you live, play-by-play coverage of high school sports, game after game, season after season. But we can't do it alone. We are currently seeking local sponsors and community partners who believe in the power of sports to bring people together, inspire youth, and energize our hometown pride. Promote your business, support our local athletes, be heard by thousands of loyal local listeners. If your business is interested in supporting live sports broadcasts while gaining valuable exposure, now is the perfect time to become a WXCO sports sponsor. Message us on our Facebook page or call or text our sales rep, Aaliyah, at 608-573-1597. That's 608-573-1597. Let's keep Wausau High School sports on the air together.
It is the Big High School Sports Show on 98.9 WXCO. Online at WXCO.FM, mobile devices, and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. Chad Holmes along with Jason Foster. Two very good guests again tonight. I thought Coach Diethelm gave us a lot of really good information about a player and his Athens Blue Jays as they go into a road game against Lena St. Thomas Aquinas, again, a team that made it to the state championship game a year ago. And then Hunter Opper from the Merrill Blue Jays. And again, you can tell that young man's been in the weight room.
Yeah, big, strong kid. And you can tell that he's been, from both the things he said on air and off the air, that the evolution of that football program, right? How they got to where they're at. I mean, they weren't a great football team within the last 5 years, and they've taken some really nice steps forward. And I think people, whatever, if you are an Edgar Stratford, and
whatever is always a good word,
right? If you are Edgar and Stratford, you get home playoff games every single year through level 3, and nobody bats an eye at it. When you're a team who is building, when you're a team who is trying to get to the next level and take a step forward each year, making the playoffs is a really big deal. Getting a home playoff game is a really big deal. So I think that those are things that in this program, I think getting a home playoff win is kind of the next part of that equation. And all those things are within their reach right now. So,
well, you know exactly what that's like.
Yeah.
I mean, West, there's not been a lot of home playoff games over the years, and it was special when you got those games.
Yeah. And we'll talk more about the rankings and the seedings and how all that stuff happens. And you get those home playoff games. Sometimes you get really tough. Like I think Wausau East had a home playoff game last year and drew a tough opponent, played a good game. But yeah, all those things really matter. And not only are they big right now for your program and taking a step forward, but for Hunter to be able to talk for the next 15, 10, 20 years when these guys get back together to talk about that we're the ones, and maybe they keep growing and they become a deep run playoff team over the next few years. Maybe this group is their peak. Who knows what's going to happen, but no matter what happens, forever they'll be able to say we beat Medford for the first time in, what did he say, 10 or 15 years, and we had a home playoff game for the first time in 10, 15 years, and win a home playoff game for the first time. So all really good things for them as both individuals and as a team.
Well, let's delve into this Friday night's action. Again, level 1 playoffs and 11-player football. Let's start with Division 1. To start the game that I am looking forward to going down and seeing, the Wausau West Warriors and the Arrowhead Warhawks. Wausau West 5-4, number 8 seed. Arrowhead 8-1, a number 1 seed. 6:35 p.m. airtime right here on 98.9 WXCO. WXCO.FM. Mobile devices and Alexa by searching WXCO, and on the Civic Media app. So everybody tune in. The Warriors, not an easy game. You talk about a powerhouse, Arrowhead. They got,
I'm almost want to try to sneak in and see all those trophies because they have 6 state championship trophies and a huge challenge for Wausau West. And this year's been a little odd for the Warriors. They won all their home games. They lost all their road games. And again, that's just, I don't take a lot out of that. It's last year is almost the opposite because the team,
your schedule.
It is how your schedule goes. But for Wausau West, I mean, you got Cooper DePoit, who's been running the ball well recently, but you got a Arrowhead team. Their quarterback is a junior named Nolan Hansen. He has thrown for 1,362 yards, 11 TDs, 7 interceptions. Jacob Seiner is their senior running back, 979 yards and 11 touchdowns. I have to say that I'm still in the midst of trying to get my arms wrapped around Arrowhead. I just know that when it's Arrowhead, it's going to be a great matchup, and it's a great challenge. I mean, do you want to go to Arrowhead in level 1? Probably not. But at the same time, you have a chance to do something really special if you're Wausau West.
You have the opportunity to do something really special. You have the opportunity to go somewhere you've never been before, and you may never get to go there again. As a football team, football program. And I mean, there's certainly an element to it like last year in the playoffs, right? For how many years the playoff bracket's been pretty cut and dry, right? You know, it's going to include Hudson, you know, it's going to include whatever local teams made it. And then, you know, you're going to, right. And then, you know, you're going to pick up those teams, as many teams as you need from the East to get to 8. And then the rest of them will head south. So last year we had headed south for the first time as an 8 seed and played a 1 seed and made a good football game with that for sure. And I think this is a similar thing. Now, I think one of the differences this year is, I mean, Arrowhead has phenomenal tradition, for sure. And the conference they play in is probably about as good week in and week out as it gets. So when you look at the record, when you look at the statistics and the numbers of their quarterback and their running back, I mean, it is a tall challenge for sure. But you're right. I think it's an opportunity. I think sometimes when you play a team like this, I mean, if you're the 8 seed, you're going on the road no matter what. But sometimes I think that might be to your advantage when you go play a team like this, right? Like the Warriors will travel well and they'll have a nice crowd, but you're getting on a bus, you're kind of dialed in and focused for that 3-hour trip till you get down there, and you play a really, really good football team.
Dialed in and focused. And I was talking to Coach Johnson at practice today, and it's like I said, you know, last week they're up 7-0. You have an offside penalty before a potential long field goal attempt. For Wausau West, it's been an issue this year. Too many penalties. Being focused, cleaning it up. That's the way they give yourself a chance, right?
Yeah, definitely. I think if you just look at the numbers in this one, obviously they're really good at throwing the ball, as was River Falls, and that was a struggle for the Warriors last year to play defense. I think to compete in games like this, you got to hope that the numbers don't. It's not just based on the numbers, and that you come out and you create some lucky breaks for yourself. You get turnovers. You're able to possess the ball and limit the amount of time they're able to chuck it around. And then when that happens, it puts teams like that maybe back on their heels a little bit. They don't know a lot about the Warriors either. So I think that's to your advantage. I mean, there's no question what Vegas thinks about this game or what it's going to be, but it's definitely a huge challenge, but there's definitely some intriguing parts too about getting on a bus and driving down to Heartland.
And usually in D1, you see an 8 beat a 1.
Yeah.
Most years you see one of those come because as we talked about earlier, there's so many good teams. You don't see, again, most of the time the 3 and 6 team making it. I mean, Wausau West is a 5 and 4 team, and they're an 8 seed. I mean, you don't have soft touches in Division 1.
No, absolutely not. And we talked about too, like when you look at the brackets, and you and I have talked a lot today, so I can't remember if this was on the air or off the air. So if I'm repeating myself, I apologize. No. But like one of the tall challenges about D1 and some of these matchups is, these over 500 teams are the 8 seeds, and some of these other brackets, teams with 2 and 3 wins are 6 and 7 seeds. And one of the toughest things about Division 1 is the best teams who rack up those competitive balance points have nowhere to go. So they stay in Division 1, but the best teams in Division 2 who rack up those competitive balance points, they bump up to Division 1. So it kind of squeezes some of those lesser teams out. And that's that's what you want, right? You want the best possible teams making the playoffs, but it certainly creates a greater challenge for sure in Division One.
But that's not really fair for the team like Stevens Point that doesn't make the playoffs.
Yes, I would bet if we had them on right now, they'd have some things to say.
Because you're adding a Division II powerhouse that's taking away a slot or maybe two. Who knows? I have to go back and look at that.
Yeah.
So the other Division I area team involved is DC Everest, 6-3. They're a number 5 seed. They travel again, like West does, to Brookfield East, 7-2, number 4 seed. And Evergreens, I mean, they got on the bus 3 times in a row in the playoffs last year. They'll try to do it again starting this week. Corbin Enzenroth, of course, will probably have to have a big day on the big night on the ground with he had 1,082 yards in the regular season and 15 touchdowns. And I think Xavier Edwards is one again. I think he is that X factor, no pun intended, because he is such a big play kid, and that leads to the quarterback question, because it is a sophomore. It's a young man that stepped in the middle of the season, Ty Rhodey, after the injury to Jake Stasiak. I think that once you get to the playoffs, a guy like Xavier Edwards is one of those difference makers that Everest is going to have to use, and I think use quite a bit.
Yeah, I think you hit it on the head. He's definitely an X factor. He's definitely their best athlete right now. Has been the whole year. I'm going to go on and play really important football and run track in college. The question is, can their sophomore quarterback get him the ball, have enough time, and get him the ball enough? I mean, what are the strengths of DC Everest this year? It's their line play. So, I mean, that can certainly help a young quarterback. And he's not as young as he was when he entered the game in week 3 or 4 or whatever it was, right? He now has 3, 4, 5 games or 5, 6 games under his belt, and he is more of a seasoned veteran than he was then. So he's definitely learned some things along the way. Obviously a team like Brookfield East knows who Xavier Edwards is and is going to have a game plan for him. But you get Corbin Enzenroth back, hopefully, in this one. And I think Everest competes and gives this one a game. Brookfield East is a heck of a football program. And we talk a lot about Arrowhead, but when you look at the teams that have beat them,
they lost to Muskego and Germantown.
Yeah, I mean, those are all perennial state.
And they haven't given up a lot of points either,
right? And is Brookfield East a team that had been bumped up from Division II? Because they were a Division II state championship, at least qualifier within the last few years. So I'm wondering if they might be one who got bumped up.
Yep. I mean, that just, again, it just makes D1 even tougher and tougher.
Right.
Division II, the Marshfield Tigers are there, 5-4, number 6 seed. They travel to Oshkosh North, 8-1, a number 3 seed. Marshfield has a 4-game winning streak, and that was a massive win last week against Stevens Point. Again, Hayden Carlson has been the guy. He had 1,525 yards on the ground, 297 last week. But again, as we've talked about all year, it's been this split of the quarterback play for the Marshfield Tigers. They have to get good quarterback play once you get to this level.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, what's been the strength of their team down the stretch here has been their ability to run the ball and play solid defense, which obviously is a good recipe for playoff football. But you cannot win at this level in these types of games without the ability to at least throw the ball somewhat, because the team can shut down the run. If you don't have an answer for that or an ability to keep 8-9 guys out of the box, it's going to be a long road. Oshkosh North, who obviously has a ton of tradition, hasn't been a great football team in recent history, but certainly has a history of state championships, appears to be playing really good football and has had a great season. So tough one. Lost to Notre Dame Academy, who is a perennial state powerhouse as well. So also a really good team, a really good pedigree coming in. Marshfield's going to have to do a lot of things well and hope the ball bounces their way.
And it's a team that's thrown the ball pretty well. Their quarterback and receiver combination has been very, very tough. Defense has allowed 13 or fewer points in 7 of their 9 games. It breaks the question when they talk about these teams that have been really good defensively or who like to throw the football. We have not had weather be a factor this year. I don't know if it's going to be a factor Friday or not, but for a team, I would imagine for an underdog, you wouldn't mind having a little weather involved, would you?
No, I think so. I think any little advantage you can get. I assume this game's at Titan Stadium.
Yeah.
If they're going over to Oshkosh, so a big venue, right? Marshfield obviously has a beautiful venue as well, but all of those things, and you hope that you can find a couple things. I think it's definitely supposed to be cooler in that fall weather, but I think it's supposed to be a nice day, if I'm not mistaken, as far as sunshine and clear. But yeah, you went. I remember when West went down last year. on the road for their playoff game. That was one of the first really cold and super windy nights, and I think that certainly worked in the Warriors' advantage last year.
What about Marshfield? 4-game win streak. I mean, I think we did not think that they were going to stay where they were early because they did have tough games, but that quarterback issue kind of hung over me. I was wondering if they could get past that. You have to say it's still an interesting team because the last couple of weeks, I mean, Eau Claire North and Stevens Point, kind of wide variety of teams. You would expect them to take care of Eau Claire North much easier, but it went right down to the wire, Both were high scoring games. What's your general take on Denny Gato's team right now?
I think they're playing really good football. I think that they're significantly better than they were at this time last year as they went into the playoffs. If I'm not mistaken, a rematch against New Richmond, who had kind of given it to them a little bit earlier in the season as well. I think that it speaks a little, they're taking nothing away from them, right? Because you play the games that are on there, but I think they're playing better football at this time of the year than they were. And I think generally speaking, what we've seen from Spash is our conference was probably down a little bit this year too. So, but I mean, when you look at their schedule at the beginning of the year, I think they would look at West as a game that they really felt they had to win, probably went into it as one of those toss-up type games. And you probably were hoping that you didn't have to beat Spash week 9 to make the playoffs. And they didn't necessarily, but they did beat them. So I think that's a huge confidence boost as well.
And they were impressive against West. I think that by far that was their best performance of the season. They knew they had to win that game, and they came out and they were ready. There's a big crowd homecoming, and it all came together for them.
Yeah, and I think their secondary played well in that game too. You said Oshkosh North, that's one of their strengths is in their ability to throw the ball with their good quarterback and good receiver. But I think they should have some confidence. Beating Spash, whatever Spash's record is or the season they had is big every single time you do it. So I can't think of a better win. And I think one of the knocks on Marshfield earlier in the season was their inability to score points. In the last couple of games, they've scored a bunch of points. So I think, I mean, there's definitely some optimism. It's a steep hill to climb, but I think that this is not nearly as tough a matchup as maybe driving down to Heartland on Friday night.
You're agreeing. I agree with 100%. And they've scored more than 33 weeks in a row. So, they're putting up points. Division 3, Wausau East will travel to Mount Horeb Barneveld. Wausau East 4-5, a 7 seed. Mount Horeb Barneveld 7-2, a 2 seed. The Vikings, talk a little bit about them. They have scored at least 44 points in 5 of their last 6 games. Their quarterback, Brooks Hendrickson, has completed 128 to 198 passes. That's a very good percentage, about 65%, 1,729 yards and 23 touchdowns. Receiver Hayden Anderson, 42 catches, 558 yards and 8 touchdowns. I am actually thinking that Wausau East defensively has some talent. I think they have talent up front, linebacker and defensive back. I'm curious to see the defense for East up against this offense that looks very sharp for Mount Horeb.
Yeah, I think that Mount Horeb's a really good football program. Wausau West gained a really nice football player this year who came from Mount Horeb Barneveld. So know a little bit about what their last 2 seasons have been like, and they've been in a very, very successful football program with a lot of talent. I think the one thing that I think East is a little bit untested because we're not quite sure what has happened in that conference, right? We're not exactly sure how good the Mosinese and the
one point I'll make real fast is that Logan game early in the season. They were still healthy, and East gave them a game right down to the wire. Maybe that, because that's really the one, because the first game against Westby, that's not a game that I think you can compare to Mount Horeb.
Right.
But I think untested is probably a pretty good word to put on it.
Yeah, so I think this is a good test for them. I think it's a pretty good bus ride down to Mount Horeb Barneveld. I'm not sure which place it's at.
Mount Horeb.
Mount Horeb, okay. But yeah, I think it's a tall challenge for them. I think when the other thing is, I think you said they have some talent in their secondary kind of at all 3 levels, but I don't think they've seen a quarterback who's thrown for 1,700 yards and 23 touchdowns. So
Meverton is a player that has got good ball skills. He's had a few interceptions this season. That's the one thing that when I was putting it together, I was thinking that maybe a kid like Caden Meverton, we think of him offensively, but I also think that defensively, somebody like him could make one of those plays that can be one of those 14-point plays, basically.
Right. When you look at games like this and when there are upsets, it usually comes down to turnovers, right? A team that's highly favored turns the ball over 2, 3, 4 times in a game. And if you throw it a lot, And if East is able to throw something at them they haven't seen recently, and some maybe they take it for granted when they look at East's record and know they're going on the road. So there's definitely some factors that work themselves into this game. East is going to have to go play a really good football game because Mount Horeb-Barneveld's a good team.
And I know they're very high on their sophomore quarterback, Cam Rye, but this is going to be a great test for this young man. They think of him as a very mature sophomore, calm presence. This will be a real test for him. And I think it'll be a great experience for him no matter what.
Absolutely.
As he moves forward in the next 2 years.
Right. And Mount Horeb averaging 44 points a game. You're going to have to score a lot to kind of keep up. I mean, I look back to the game last week against River Falls.
Oh, boy, those are scary offenses.
Even if you're able to slow them down a little bit, you got to score a lot of points to beat a team like that. And that was a really tall order.
Lakeland and Merrill. Lakeland 5-4, the 5 seed. Merrill 6-3 of the 4 seed. Merrill beat Lakeland 34-14 last month. Lakeland got off to a great start, including that win against Mosinee, but then they've been banged up. Merrill has done a nice job coming down the stretch, winning 5 of 6. It feels like a tough spot for Lakeland, but I'm again, when you hear, they know this in the locker room. The mental aspect is so important, I think, in a game like this.
Yeah, for sure. And we've talked about it with our guests. We've talked about it off air. These conference matchups in level 1, like I've never liked them. I've never liked them at all because as familiar as you are with them, they are with you.
And normally the games are never the same.
Nope.
I mean, even a couple years ago when West played Spash, the first game West had a terrible night turning it over. The second time they moved it up and down the field, put up 30 plus points, had a big lead. I mean, the game is never the same.
Correct. And like we've talked about all year, right? Injuries play a role. Like the team you saw 2, 3, 4 weeks ago might not be the same team.
Yeah.
And a lot of playoffs make a difference too. So I think this is a tough matchup. I think Merrill's playing good football. I think they're in a really good spot to kind of get a great home win and move forward to level 2 in the playoffs. But I certainly would not rule Lakeland out in this. I think they have the opportunity. I think Hunter said it best. I mean, they had a great win against Mosinee, and they're the only ones in the conference who did. So they definitely got that on their side.
I got a feeling that Coach Wadzinski said it to him because he said it's like, hey, they beat Mosinee. Right. And he was like, it came out of Hunter's mouth so very quickly.
Yeah.
So
those coaches said it a bunch of times.
I'm guessing they did. 2 other GNC teams in action in Division 3. Both 8 seeds, Medford 3-6 at undefeated number 1 seed at Grafton. Rhinelander 8 seed 3-6 at Edgewood, 8-1 and number 1 seed. They're there.
Yeah.
But neither one of these teams has played very well.
They haven't played very well, and they're about to play teams that are significantly better than anybody they've seen, especially in the conference this year. So I think you give the nod to Medford a little bit, not that I think they're going to win, but that they've at least been there, right? They've played really good teams both in non-conference and in postseason play, and haven't had a ton of success even in their best years in the playoffs against really good teams.
The one thing that Medford has, the ability perhaps to have long drives with the run game, because
that's the ball.
You want to have as few possessions total in the game as possible in that situation, right?
Absolutely. You limit the touches on the other side, and then you hope for the turnovers and good things to happen. But Medford has struggled down the stretch against teams in their own conference. So I think this is definitely a tall order, and Rhinelander's been pretty inconsistent throughout.
Division 4, Mosinee 7-2 at number 2 seed will host Beloit Turner 4-5 a 7 seed. Mosinee has been playing great football, 5 wins in a row. Treve Stoffel has done it all. 1,342 yards, 16 touchdowns passing, 875 on the ground, 15 more scores, 81 tackles, 4 interceptions, a couple of fumble recoveries. But this has been, again, Mosinee's had these kind of games. They've had higher seeds. And again, facing a team from outside the area. It's Turner, again, they're in the Capital Conference. They have 3 teams in that league that are top 4 seeds in Division 4, Columbus, Lodi, and Lake Mills. But they lost their last 2 games badly, 71-14 combined. But again, there's that unknown, and I call it the fear of the unknown here for if you're Mosinee.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think this first off is another example of how this new playoff format has thrown geography to the wind, for certain. But you look at the teams that they lost, and I think Mosiney's a better team. I think the one knock on Mosinee is going to be how dimensional are they and how much depth do they have? If a team can completely shut down Tree Stoffel, that's going to be a tall order for them to overcome that. But when you look at those teams in that conference, I mean, Columbus, perennial powerhouse, Lodi has won a state championship in the last few years. Lake Mills has won a state championship. So that is you look at a team that has 5 losses, and if 3 of them are against teams who've been in the state championship game in the last 3 to 5 years, and I think also a school that draws from a much larger population than just if you take a private school in a very small community that has other big high schools. So definitely, I mean, Turner's definitely probably no slouch, but I think Mosiney's playing really good football and has earned their 2 seed and should definitely be favored in this game.
Division 5, Tomahawk, number 1 seed, 8-1, takes on Omro, 3-6, the number 8 seed. Omro is from the Flyway Conference. Mayville won it. Winnebago Lutheran, St. Mary Springs. We've heard about them very often. So obviously a tested Omro team, but still a 3-6 team. And for Tomahawk is going to be a very exciting night at their nice little stadium there. They've earned it, and I'm sure they want to make sure that they don't look ahead at all.
Right. And we talk about all the things that can help you going into the playoffs, right? Playing good football, how you've won your other games, who your opponents have been. I think one of the greatest things Tomahawk has is these kids have won a state championship in another sport. They understand big games. They understand how to play in front of crowds. They understand the mental toughness and
moving through a bracket.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. So I think that, I mean, Tomahawk, I mean, we'll talk probably a little bit about it in regards to them in Stratford and 1 seed, 2 seed, all that. But at the end of the day, obviously, if you take history out of it, I think you can make a legitimate argument that Tomahawk has earned their spot, and it'll be interesting to see how deep they're able to go.
Absolutely. Then the Wittenberg-Burnhamwood is a 5 seed, despite being under 500, still a 5 seed. I think you were kind of talking about that a little bit earlier. They're at Brookfield Academy, who's 5-4. So it's really, again, a lot. It's a 4 or 5 game, and they all have 4 or 5 records. And again, for Whitburn this year, it's been a very interesting. I think their season is as interesting as anybody's. Bryson Schmidt, who was supposed to be one of the best players in Central Wisconsin, got injured in preseason. They had those tough losses to Tomahawk and Stratford. I mean, 1 and 2 seeds. Yeah. I mean, you look at it, they're in this division, and if they win those games, even with the tough loss to Marathon, they let the 14-point lead get away. They would still have 6 wins and be probably at home on Friday night. Brookfield Academy was 2nd in the Midwest Classic Small behind Kenosha St. Joseph, one of the best teams in the state of Wisconsin. So, but 2 of the 6 teams in that conference did not field varsity squads this year. But that did give them an opportunity. Gives a couple of, maybe that 5-4 record is because I did not count their wins, right? A part of that, but they played some good competition that I think will make them better prepared for the playoffs as well.
Yeah, definitely another whatever. This is a whole different 2-hour-long show, but certainly a private school. And I mean, Brookfield used to have some, I mean, Brookfield East, we know how good they are. Brookfield Central with Coach Seinold has won state championships a long time ago, but been good. I think this is one of those games though. If Wittenberg plays good football, I think this is probably one of the better matchups out there, or the better draws, I should say. Like, knowing that they haven't played great down the stretch, Wittenberg-Burnhamwood, this is a pretty good spot for them. I mean, it would have been a lot tougher for them to be a 7 or an 8 seed with that 4-5 record and go on the road to play a really tough team. I mean, at Brookfield Academy is a pretty long bus ride for them as well, but probably a good matchup. So if they play good football, I think they got a shot.
Gonna have to kind of pick up the tempo here as we're in the last 5 minutes here. We're going to our 5-minute drill.
All right.
Division 5, Stratford, number 2 seed against number 7 seed Richland Center. Spencer Columbus, a 5 seed at number 4 seeded New Holstein. Amherst, number 2 seed against Lancaster, a number 7 seed, 4-5. So those are 3 teams of the CWC Large, and all 3 teams have had really good seasons for different reasons. I think Stratford for bouncing back after their losses. Spencer Columbus really building throughout the season, and Amherst, as we talked about earlier as well.
Yeah, I think so. I think that we talk everyone's in different spots, right? Stratford's looking at a 5th or a 4th straight championship in a row, or at least competing for one. Spencer Columbus is in a situation where they're pretty excited to be back in the playoffs and if earn that spot by playing good football. Like they haven't gotten there based on forfeits or whatever. They've played good teams and won good teams down the stretch. And Lancaster, my goodness, Coach Holken, how many state championships have they won? So kind of a obviously
interesting 7th seed, right?
Yeah, not the team they've been in the past, but Amherst, I mean, who are they, right? Are they gonna blow this Lancaster team out and go on a run here, or are they gonna kind of struggle down the stretch? So good matchup.
Division 6, Edgar moved up with that quotient, looking for a 3rd straight state championship, the first 2 in Division 7. Loyal Greenwood, boy, they had such a good start, and boy, the wheels kind of fallen off late in the season.
Yeah, I mean, again, good for them for making the playoffs. Probably not super excited Saturday morning to see they'd be heading back down the road to Edgar. Obviously, super tough. Edgar is a 1 seed. I can't imagine any 8 seed that want to see him, but
No.
but obviously a tough road for them.
Marathon at Kewanee, and the good for Marathon. Vince Dinko got his team back in the playoffs. It probably hurt them losing that game last week, despite being a big edge against Spencer Columbus in the yardage, and they have a tough one against Kewanee.
Yeah, Kewanee, really good. The Storm, right? Really good program, really good athletes, strong history. So tough road for them, but great job getting back into the playoffs, and we'll see what happens.
It's really interesting to see Abbotsford as a 6-3 team be a 7 seed, and they play Mondovi, who's 8-1. They should be 9-0, because I think if you're watching the bracket show on Saturday, their one loss was to Regis on a Hail Mary. They should be 9-0, the number 1 seed. This is a really tough one for Abbotsford, and the last 2 weeks have been tough ones for Abby, with the Auburndale shutout and then the Edgar shutout.
Yeah, I mean, traditionally they run the football really well, and you have a lot of confidence going into the playoffs. They have not done that necessarily the last 2 weeks. And Mondovi, not only 8-1 team, probably should be 9-0 this year. They've been good for quite a while now too. So strong program, playing really good football, tough matchup for Abby.
And the rest of the CWC Merriwood teams, D6, Wyowega Fremont, a number 5 seed at 5-4, at 4th seed at Cambridge. Auburndale 8-1, a number 3 seed, which may be a little bit low, but they take on 5-4 Crandon, who is a number 6 seed. And Division 7, Assumption 3-6, an 8 seed at undefeated number 1 seed Cochrane, Fountain City, and Pittsville. Again, they played well coming down the stretch, but they have Hilbert, number 2 seed on Friday.
Yeah, Assumption last year's an 11-man team and making the playoffs. I mean, nice memory for them.
I don't know how much of a nice memory that game will be on Friday, however.
Maybe not the game. Maybe just making the playoffs is the memory.
That's right. We got, about a minute and a half to go here. I guess, again, as you look at the playoffs, as we go into it, what are the things that you're looking at? Is there anything in particular that you're excited about? Anything that, in terms of maybe big picture that you'll be looking at?
Yeah, I think big picture, I think we're still trying to figure out what this new playoff seeding means. And there's a lot of unknown matchups in this, right? We usually, and some years we complain about those conference matchups, and you shouldn't have to play somebody from your conference again right away or whatever. And for the most part, that's not happening other than in a couple instances through here. So maybe that makes it better, but it certainly makes for some really tough matchups as well. So I'll be interested to see how teams from this part of the state travel or host and stack up against teams from other part of the state, even like the Mosinee game, right?
Yeah,
I mean, they're hosting a team that has to get on a long bus ride. So different, but I think no less interesting or exciting to kind of look towards the outcomes on Friday night.
Every game is going to be exciting in some way.
Yeah,
I mean, there's going to be some scores that are not going to be fun.
Yep.
But I mean, I'm so looking forward to going to Arrowhead on Friday. I mean, that's so much fun, and I'm sure the guys are all looking forward with the Wausau West team as well. What a great opportunity!
Yeah, absolutely. When you look at the 8-1 seeds and how tough, and people kind of make some complaints in basketball, we have 16 versus 1 seeds early on in those matchups. So.
All right. Well, we'll look forward to a great level 1. We'll talk about everything going on in level 2 next week, but we'll see you then.
Sounds good. Enjoy the fall weather.
Oh, actually, I think I'm so thrown off the mic.